Andrea Calvo, and I am a project coordinator at a electrical contractor, Trio Electric, and they pretty much do like the wiring and all the electrical stuff for the big buildings. So right now we're doing like the convention center, one of the buildings in downtown, like Market Square, which is like a 40-story apartment, super nice apartment complex.
Wow.
So yes, that's what I do. I moved to Houston, which is the first city that I moved in the U.S., when I was 17. So in Mexico, I was in an international school called Nuevo Continente, New Continent, and I was there since I was 4. So whenever you like get into the school, they teach you your ABC, your numbers, everything in English first, and then a year before first grade, it's called pre-first. They teach you they teach you how to write in English, because then they go back to the Spanish. But then like on pre-first, they teach you how to write in English and do like read in English, and it's called pre-first. So instead of having your regular amount of years on every single like kinder and then like elementary and middle school, we have one extra before first grade. So whenever you go through first grade in Mexico, elementary school goes from first to 6th grade. So from first to 6th grade, you have half day Spanish, half day English. You have 2 different teachers, and they change it in the middle, because at the beginning it was like the same classroom and the teacher will just go from one classroom to the other one. But then later on, they made us move classrooms. So it was half day, and then you had your recess, and then you moved to your English or your Spanish, whatever came first. And then after that, whenever you go into middle school, which is your 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, it is 75% English, and then you just have your Spanish class in Spanish, of course, and math in Spanish. Everything else, geography, history, science, everything else is in English. The professors, some of them are Americans, some of them are Mexicans that lived here for a long time, and they speak good English, but they still have the accent. They don't have a full English, but it's okay for teaching the level that we have. Once you finish that, after that I moved here, but it continues into going for high school. You have pretty much the same thing that in middle school, and they just add one more language. So they do French or Italian or whatever other language you want to add to that. I moved here to start my sophomore year of high school, and when I started my sophomore year of high school and I moved here, I went to Memorial High School. It's all American people. There will be like 1 or 2 Hispanics. First of all, it was overwhelming, because back in Mexico, the classrooms were big, but there was only like per class there was only like 100 of us. So whenever I moved here, and my class was 600 people, just my class, I didn't have any idea. So I moved here with my aunt, which is my dad's sister, and whenever she dropped me off the first day, she was like, this girl has no idea what she's getting herself into. So I walked in there, and I seriously felt like an ant. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm one more. I just couldn't believe it. And then I went through my first class and the second class, and I started like to realizing faces and seeing, but it was like a maze. I couldn't even move in there. I just didn't know how to move in there. So many people, and the school is so big. In Mexico, they keep you like, the school is big, but pre-K, kinder, elementary, middle school, it's like by sections. You don't have to walk all over the school. And here you were walking all over the school. actually on my 7th period, I will never forget this. On my 7th period, my class was an R107, and it was my BCIS class, my computer class. So I passed by and I see this professor, and he's like, BCIS R107. I'm like, no, this is not my class. So I go through that, and then I go upstairs and I sit in a classroom which was 207. So I sit there and they start going through roll, and I'm Calvo, so I'm the first ones, and I'm like, well, maybe they skipped me for a reason. So I'm like, this is really weird that the Americans do computer class in a classroom without computers. And then I'm like, okay, that's okay. So they finish going through through the roll, and I look at the guy next to me and I ask him, what's this class? And he says, speech. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So he just looks at me and he's like, are you in the wrong class? And I was like, yeah. So he was nice enough to tell the teacher that I was in the wrong class. I was able to communicate.
Right.
I was able to understand. So that helped a lot. I never realized how much this international school helped me until I moved here. I always thought it was like, nah, whatever, my mom is paying for this school, it's not even working, like I barely speak English. I didn't understand how much it helped until I moved here. I didn't think I spoke and I understood it as much as I did until I moved here. I moved here and they put me on ESL classes. My English and my geography, I think, were ESL. But the English class, it was really weird because, let's back up a little bit. Whenever I moved here, they make you take a test to see what's your English level. And they took me to the test, and the people that are grading them, like in a classroom, and they watch your video and they see all that, they called me into the classroom because they didn't believe that I actually speak English. They asked me, where did you learn English? So I told them the whole story that I just told you. They were surprised. They couldn't believe it. But the thing that really bothers me, and I think it's because of my schedule and my other classes, is they put me in the ESL class that nobody spoke English. I was the only one. They were teaching them the vowels, the ABC, how to put words together, the sounds of the letters.
You're way
to the
beyond
point that the teacher was like, you stop answering questions until like next semester I'm gonna move you. Next semester they put me in a different class, which it was still ESL, but I was learning more.
Some more advanced.
Yes. And then the geography, history, it was with another professor that he got so annoyed at me because there's all these Asians, Indians, Hispanics that don't speak a word of English, and his test will be like geography, and then you have to like match to the like match, and it will say like geography, and down here geography, it's the study of this, and I'm like, come on people, if you don't, and I told the whole class, if you don't know English, at least have some common sense. If this is geography and geography, it has to be related. It was interesting. I didn't have any friends the first semester. I moved with my aunt, and my aunt has a son, and then that is older than me. He's like 7 years older than me. So at home we speak Spanish, and up to today at home we speak Spanish. I have 2 nephews. They are, well, now they are like 15. They're older. They're teenagers. But back then they were kids. And when I moved here, we told them, they call me Nena, which means like the little one. They're like, Nena doesn't speak any English, so you're gonna have to speak Spanish to her. And one day they heard me speaking Spanish, and they were like, you were lying to us. But they still have like, they have an accent. They sometimes don't know the words, but they try to speak the Spanish. So at home it's 100% Spanish. Nobody speaks English at home. Everybody speaks English, but between us we don't speak it.
Okay.
Now my mom in Mexico, my brother went through the same school, but for him it was like a summer camp. Up to today he will tell you it was a summer camp for me. Like he didn't learn as much as I did. I was also super on top of my stuff and always like doing my homework and all this. I will get hundreds all the time. My mom doesn't speak any English. My grandparents from my mom's side that still live down in Mexico, they don't speak any English. So it's my dad's side of the family that lives here, and it's my dad's side of the family that speaks English. But still at home, always speak in Spanish. It's more natural, and it's how we grew up. Cause my uncle that it's the one that has been here the longest, he has been here for probably like 30 years now. And the way he learned English was by watching TV, by reading. Like he will be reading and not understand a word and like pause, grab the dictionary and like find a word. His English is by watching TV and reading. And he's the one that told my mom and my aunt and everybody else is like the kids need to be in a bilingual school. So my cousin that it's my aunt's son, he went through the same school. Everybody, my brother went through the same school. I have a younger cousin, she went through the same school. And eventually my brother lived here for a few years, then he went back, he didn't like it, he went back. But everybody went through the bilingual school, and back then that was like the best school in my hometown.
So you spoke Spanish with your friends
In Mexico?
right
Yeah.
at your school, unless I'm sure maybe unless you guys were practicing or
Yeah, we will speak Spanish all the time unless we were like in class and we had to do like a project or something.
and you had to speak Spanish or English in class.
You had to, so professors didn't speak any Spanish. For example, the day my middle school graduation, I gave the speech in English, like the class speech. I went back home to Mexico probably like a few weeks ago, and I left the box with like a bunch of stuff.
Right.
My mom was like, you need to open the box and tell me what you want and what we're gonna get rid of. So I opened the box and I found the speech. So I started like reading it, and my brother is like, I forgot you gave the speech, but he's like, can you just shush? I don't want to listen to you. It was really funny because, like for example, words that was a past tense word, and I had to like pronounce the ed at the end. I will highlight the ed at the end, or like words that I needed to like emphasize on a letter or the other one, I will circle. My uncle that was living here back then, the one that moved, the first one to move over here, we were emailing back and forth, and he was like proofreading it for me and everything. Probably by now I will do it different, but it was fine. But it was pretty cool to see how like, oh, I need to like emphasize on the ed because it's a past tense, or like things, or like the on and the in. I have up to today I have problems with the ons and the ins. It's like on November 23rd, in November 23rd. Things that you probably don't even think about it, but for me it's like I have to think about it. Is it on or in the boss, on the boss, which means different things, but you can say both of them.
Are you thinking about the English right now as you're talking?
Not
to me?
really.
So when you came here and you went to high school, you find it was a lot more difficult to make friends because
I don't think
of
it
them, or
was the language difficulty, it was the cultural difficulty. Going to Memorial High School, where these kids for their 16th birthday they get Range Rovers and they get all these things that I'm like, nope. So I think it was more the cultural difficulty
Did you
than
find
the
them
language
standoffish?
difficulty.
Or
Yeah, I kind of like didn't really want to be a part of their group. I didn't want to be involved. Actually, I went back to Mexico. So I moved here in August, and Christmas break I went back to Mexico to spend Christmas with my family, and I was ready to tell my mom I'm ready to come back. Like I'm miserable. First of all, geography, the math in the U.S., they were so behind. I was going through stuff that I saw in like elementary school, on 10th grade. Like I went through this when I was like in 5th grade. So I was like, I mean, this is like doing it all over again. English class, I'm in a class where they're teaching me the vowels. So it's like they don't even know my potential. Like they don't appreciate it. So I was frustrated. I will get home. I wouldn't even have homework because I will do it in class because I already knew what they were teaching them. Like stuff like that I will get home and take a nap and like wake up, eat, and take another nap and like go to sleep. So I was like depressed without even knowing it.
Oh my God.
So I went back, and my mom and my grandparents and everyone, it's like bragging about me and like, we're just so proud of you, that I said I can't do this. I have to go back and just deal with it. So I came back, and my aunt was like, we're not doing this anymore. So we lived on Memorial Drive, and she was like, okay, we're gonna go walk around and ask every single place if they have a job for you. So we walked into a restaurant. We walked into a corner store that my aunt knew the guy, and the guy was like, no, I don't have anything, because she was asking for me. I don't have anything, but I know the restaurant behind us, behind my store, is hiring. So we went to the restaurant. We walked in. My aunt is like, do y'all have a job for her? And the guy just looked at me, didn't even ask me anything, and he looked at me in Spanish. He was like, just come Friday at 6 o'clock. Of course, my aunt took me like shopping. She bought me like slacks and a down from shirt, and like, just go. So I would literally cross the street. I didn't even drive. I crossed the street, and I got there, and he was like, you're gonna be the hostess. So you just stand here. If they ask you, like, you just ask them how many, take them to their table, give them the menus, and that's it. And I was like, okay. It's an Italian Mexican restaurant. It's not really fancy.
Right.
But
like mom and pop kind of.
Yes, kind of like a thing. It was like a 10-year-old restaurant back then. I knew the owner. Like, he will still come by every now and then. This was our second location. And then, but my dream job was Baskin Robbins, which was like down the street. So that was, on a Friday I walked in there like I had a job. And then on Saturday morning, they called me from Baskin Robbins to go interview. And my aunt is like, they're calling you from Baskin Robbins. I was like, what do I tell them? And she's like, go interview, tell them thank you very much, you already have a job. And I was like, okay. So I put the same slacks, and I'm going to Baskin Robbins. So I showed up in Baskin Robbins, and it's a Mexican lady. So she starts talking to me and everything, and I'm like, well, I just came here to personally thank you for calling me, and I really appreciate it, but I already got a job. And she's like, where? And I was like, well, at the restaurant over here. This is all walking distance. So she's like, what do you do Saturday and Sunday morning? I was like, nothing. She's like, do you want to work in the mornings? And I was like, sure. So I go back home, and my aunt is like, so what happened? I was like, I have 2 jobs. Throughout the rest of my sophomore year, junior, senior, and my freshman year of high school, I had 2 jobs. I went full-time to school. I was paying for my school. I was paying bills at home. Up to today, I finished my school with working full-time. I went through college. I graduated in December, University of Houston, downtown. So I went to school full-time. I worked full-time. I paid for my school. I have no student loans.
Had you stayed in Mexico, what do you think do you think you'd have the same opportunities?
I don't think so. First of all, it's really hard to work and go to school, even part-time. It's just not an option. It's the times, like the school schedule, it doesn't give you a chance. And also, like, people in a store or something, they don't allow you to, like, it's like, I want you here all the time, or like, I want you to be flexible with the schedule. So it's hard. It's not an option unless you work with mom and dad or something like that. But I don't think so. And first of all, I will not be making what I make right now. I will not have the options that I have right now. Like, I bought my first car. It's mine. I bought it myself. It's like, in Mexico, I will not be able to do that. Plus, I feel like I will still be a mommy's girl. Because I was. Because my mom will give me whatever the heck I wanted. And I see it with my brother now. It's like, I left, my brother came back, so whatever my brother wants is whatever he gets. And he's 30 years old, and he's still like doing whatever mommy asked him to do. My mom stopped like giving me money when I was like 18, and I started working and everything. I was like, I don't think I need you to send me money anymore. And I started paying bills at the house. I mean, it was like the gas bill, which was like $30. Then my aunt was like, well, maybe you can help me with like half of like the light bill, which was like $130 total. Little by little, but I think it has a lot to do with my aunt, like pushing me to do things. Because I will have never gone out by myself and find a job. I will have never told her like, oh, let me pay for the light bill, let me pay for the gas bill. And up to today, she's like that. She will tell me like, you should do this, you should do that, or like, try to find this, try to find that. So my aunt got here to this country without a single penny, like nothing. Right now she has 3 houses, one in Mexico. She owns her car. She's ready to retire. My aunt and my uncle, both of them are like my parents in here. My uncle is also like, you should do this, you should do that, like think about doing this, like learn a third language. So I started taking Portuguese classes. Whenever I graduated, January, like at the middle of January, I started.
Is it Latin based? Like
It is. It's pretty similar, which I think that was a problem why it was so hard and complicated, because I will just throw the Spanish in there. It's not really me. I don't give myself that much credit. It's the people around me.
You were the one that did the work, so you should give yourself a lot of credit.
Yes.
Because a lot of people can tell you to do a lot of things, you know.
But it's a
You
lot.
did the hard work. That's
It's
the
on
hard
you.
part, you know.
It depends on you if you want to do it or not.